So, brother, excited to be doing this Zoom with you and learning all about the AI and what you've been doing with it. I already did watch that sort of meeting, the contributors meeting, where you were talking about that. What you had been doing to a degree, and I found it very impressive. And hearing how quick Dawn came up with her versions of the statement, which obviously was impressive. And they all have their own power, don't they? At the end of the day, I think they actually work quite well together to actually kind of drive that into the consciousness. You could actually literally reel out all of those statements, although you're kind of repeating yourself, just to sort of get it into people's heads what you're saying to a degree. But yeah,
Well, I mean, probably an easier way to do it. I know I could share screen. So if I pull up, because if I pull up an example, so then I can actually
sure.
at certain stages,
I'll make you a host.
like actually demonstrate what I'm doing. Yep.
There you go.
Doosh. Now, share screen. Where are we at? So here we go. So can you see that now?
Yep, I can do.
Awesome. So basically, this is the thread that Dawn exists on, Dawn 0.1 alpha, so to speak. So, and this is the thing, like when I introduced this whole concept at that time with that contributors meeting, I was, I framed it in a way to give this impression that I had this personal assistant AI called Dawn, who I wanted to evoke in people the whole concept of Jarvis from Iron Man. If you've ever seen that, for people who haven't seen it, that's like there's an AI in Iron Man called Jarvis
Oh yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
the character interacts with as he's building his suit, and that is the ultimate. Like that's one of the golden. That's like you could call that one of the holy grails of AI. You call that general AI that is basically can do any you can interact with it, you can ask it to do things, it can do those things, and it can like speculate with you. General intelligence called GAI, general intelligence AI. So what you're looking at here on this screen is Chat GPT. Either you've heard of it or you haven't heard of it distantly. Even people who have heard of it don't really understand exactly what it is and how it works. So I'll just knock that out of the park straight away. It's what's called a large language model. If you ever see the acronym LLM and they're talking about machine learning or AI, then you know that's what it is, large language model. And in essence, they have data banks of billions and billions and billions of conversations, questions, queries, corrections, context, fillers, you name it. That's what the engine will be trained on as a large language model. You can go out there and you can download what are called open source language models that you can download, takes up hardly any room on your computer, install it. The one of the best ones you can get at the moment runs at about the same quality level as Chat GPT 3. But what the good thing about that is because it's on your own system with your own file, you can then continue the training if you want. You can then increase its library, and you can start actually working closer towards that ideal AI personal assistant. So just for example here, I'll give this is how Dawn was created. I'll give a quick run through. Act as a philosopher and a logistician. Create a list of first principles, including every first principle listed, 3 examples of that principle in the form of a description of that principle in action. The first example should be suitable for an 8-year-old, second for a 13-year-old, third for an 18-year-old. And this is what it did. So I'll just do the first one, principle of identity. Everything is the same as itself. Anything is identical to itself. For an 8-year-old, your toy car is your toy car. It's not your sister's doll or your friend's kite. It is what it is. 13 years old, consider your school's emblem. It might be similar to other emblems, but it is its own unique emblem. It's not the emblem of another school. And for 18-year-old, in chemistry, an oxygen molecule is distinct from a carbon dioxide molecule. They each have their own unique characteristics and properties. So, and you could increase that for a 35-year-old, whatever. But what I moved on to then was, I asked him to do another 20. And then I said, rewrite the first 5 examples in this chat following the same instruction set with one change. When creating the 3 examples for the 3 respective age groups, use examples that would be considered to be either philosophical or spiritual in their descriptions. So we'll do the first one it did again. Principle of identity. Everything is the same as itself. Anything is identical to itself. 8 years old. Imagine your favorite stuffed animal. Even if it's a teddy bear, like many others, it's unique because it's yours and shares all your adventures. 13-year-old. Think of your personal values. They may resemble those of others, but they are your own because they're shaped by your unique experiences and beliefs. 18 years old. Your consciousness, your sense of self is unique to you. No one else in the world experiences thoughts, emotions, or perceptions exactly as you do. Okay?
Beautiful.
Principle of identity. So I went on and I said, engage in a thought exercise. Take items 4 and 5, which on this list is the principle of parsimony, also known as Occam's razor, and the principle of causality, cause and effect. And I said, take those items, rewrite them following the same parameters given. However, I would like you to hold certain assumptions to be true as you formulate your response. The assumptions to be held are as follows: that consciousness is the most primary and fundamental aspect of known reality, that there is an ether and that there is no such thing as a true vacuum, that the ether is actually infinite density in the form of information, that the primary principle of all known reality is the principle of unique expression, i.e., the primary driving force of all of existence, full stop. Everything else that comes after that. So this is what it did. Principle of parsimony. Among competing hypotheses, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected. 8 years old. Imagine you're drawing a picture and each color you use represents a thought. It's easier to understand your drawing when you use just a few colors rather than all of them at once. Similarly, if you're happy after playing your favorite game, it's likely because you simply enjoy playing the game and not because each move you make changes the universe's infinite information field. 13. If you find peace in meditation, it could be because you're tapping into the fundamental consciousness that permeates all reality, aligning with the unique expression of you. While it could also involve complex quantum interactions with the information-dense ether, Occam's razor would have us first consider the simpler explanation of personal alignment with universal consciousness. 18. Witnessing a strange light in the sky could be interpreted as an etheric fluctuation or an otherworldly visitation. But applying Occam's razor, it's most likely an atmospheric phenomenon that interacts in simple and explainable ways with the information-rich ether, manifesting as a unique expression of the principle of reality. And then the second one was cause and effect. Every effect has a cause or a series of causes that produced it. 8 years old. When you share your toy with a friend and they smile, your action, cause, has created a reaction, effect. This is also a unique expression of your consciousness interacting with the ether of infinite information, creating a specific outcome in your shared reality. 13. Your calm feeling after practicing mindfulness is an effect of the cause, which is your conscious intention to experience calm. Through this process, you've uniquely expressed yourself in the infinite ether, translating information into your personal reality. 18. If societies strive towards moral and ethical norms, it's not merely a random occurrence. It's the result effect of our shared consciousnesses interacting with the ether of infinite information, cause. This is also a manifestation of the principle of unique expression, as each society contributes to its unique perspective to the grand tapestry of universal consciousness.
Oh, awesome.
Right, now if you think that's good, wait.
just one second. One second. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, if you got any questions,
yeah. Firstly, yeah. So, did you have any technical background before you started to get interested in this, or is it? Have you? What sort of level?
surface level. And I mean, with me, whenever I go into something, I go in like
Full.
full blast, and I do a what you could call a fast shallow dive.
Yeah.
So I dive. I don't go very deep below the surface, but it's a long. I'm a long time under that water before I break the surface again.
Mm.
If you get my meaning.
Yeah, yeah,
So I usually accumulate enough information because with me, I'm a theory guy, less a practical guy. For me, there are very few things that I, when I grasp the theory, I'm actually equally efficient and proficient at doing practically doing it out. But I'm really good at cracking, understanding the theories behind almost anything you put in front of me, and
mm.
that's become even easier now that I understand the nature of first principles, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's just made that all much easier. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, because obviously, just I mean, how you were introducing Chat GPT and what it is basically on a fundamental level. I mean, because you've been playing with it and you've obviously gone into it, and I mean, you sound like your level is quite high in it. I mean, it obviously is already. You're learning as you're going with this, and you're learning a lot. But it's interesting because obviously, again, anyone can use Chat GPT, but again, one of the things that's so beautiful about what you're doing is because of your um, application and sort of actually using it to sort of learn about consciousness, teaching it about consciousness, and having it sort of look at the world from that perspective of consciousness. It is just beautiful to see how this is going to develop. I can already see it as well. But
Well, so I'll just refer back as well. Well, I'll just touch on that point you made, because you made a really good point there that I think needs to be emphasized. Yes, I do sound like that, and I feel like that, and I can assure you, I am that. But that's not like a boast. I can tell you now, anybody that watches this video who just goes and tries just maybe a fifth of what I'm going to demonstrate over the course of this and show, and actually then and puts into practice just one or two things that I'm showing and I'm talking about, you now are in the bracket of the 0.01% of the world's population that is actually using this and knowing about it and doing anything about it. Just by default of listening to this video, going and doing a couple of things with it, you're already at the cutting edge of this, of what's happening here with AI. Just automatically, you are now more of an expert than 99.99% of the rest of the world as it stands at the moment. But that's changing. That 0.1 is turning to 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and it's going to keep doing that very fast soon.
but
It's
then
already, that acceleration curve's already started.
a lot of people that will be using Chat GPT won't be using it in the same way as you are, with actual very well thought out, thought
Yes.
provoking
So
questions and
what's that? What
formulations
that's
as well.
called? What that's called is prompt engineering. So when you start to go into the world of AI, if anybody decides to start going into the world of AI, once you go a bit more deeper than a shallow level, you'll come across very quickly this term called prompt engineering and prompting, and that's what you're doing. This is essence. This is the core of what it means to interact with AI, prompt engineering. And all it really means is how do you talk to the AI? How do you talk to the AI? And when you are either asking it to do something, or or if you're just asking it for information in a certain way, how you ask it will dictate drastically what you receive back from it. And the large language model, to understand why this is more of a point with large language models than anything else, is the fact that in essence it's a glorified probability simulator. That's it. It's going off algorithmic probabilities. This question has been phrased to me like this. So probabilistically, what they're looking for is something in alignment with this.
Mm.
Roll the dice. And it now at Chat GPT 4 level, that dice is almost always sixes.
Mm.
It very very rarely, unless it's bugging out, or the servers are busy because it's a peak time, whatever. But aside from those anomalies, it's rolling sixes
Mm.
every time. And So, and I'm going to go into more detail about how you can't just take those sixes and go. Can't do it. This isn't a do it all for you and then I will copy paste it. There is a lot of do for me and copy paste it, but and I'll go into this in more detail later on. But I'll put a pin in that there, and remind me of that later, and because it will become more evident as we go along,
Cool.
especially when I go and demonstrate the art generation AI, which is a different kind of AI.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
Just
what I mean.
last,
And people think AI, they have this idea it's just one AI. No, it's lots of different kinds. So sorry, carry on then.
yeah, I was just going to say last quick point as well. Is just it's great obviously having it give these three different examples from the different age groups. I mean, just even generally because uh, it's obviously formulated in just slightly more complex language and things like that, and scenarios, examples, obviously as it's arranging it. But when you're actually giving anybody information that requires the application of their focus, their attention, their concentration, actually, it's often known. Well, it's known you have to repeat things three times, and even if you repeated them three times, if you're dealing with somebody who's over 18, you started with the 18, but then you went back to the description of 13 and then the 8-year-old. Well, you wouldn't necessarily come across as you think they're stupid, but you're just giving them in three different ways for them to digest it and take it in. And I just think it's a beautiful way of doing it as well from that point of
Well,
view.
where that comes from, where that phenomenon comes from, is the basic. I can't say that I came up with that concept. That whole concept in prompt engineering of make it easy for an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old or whatever year old to understand comes from a very old understanding called where if you cannot explain something
So no,
to a 10-year-old so that a 10-year-old can understand it, then you don't know enough about it yourself. Go back to the drawing board and start again.
mm,
And so what we have here is a mechanism by which we can explain something to a 10-year-old
mm,
every time,
mm.
every time, every time.
And
Because
yeah,
because the thing is the logic it's running on is it's that whole explain something to a 10-year-old level is right up the computer's alley. That's right up AI's alley. That's like bread and butter for AI because understanding something on an intellectual level is simply a case of grasping the logic of it. And then once you grasp the logic of it, it's coming up with a way to convey that logic in the most efficient manner. That's like machining, like machine brain 101. That's like, yeah, this is we love this stuff. We love this stuff. This is what we can do, no problem. So this is the way that this logic is usually said. I just convert it into a logic that is assimilable by this age group. Boom. That's nothing to an AI. So it's so reliable. And really, the biggest cause of miscommunication is lack of definition, lack of understanding, true understanding about the fact. And you can't argue with an AI as well when it gives you the answer and the explanation. If you don't like if it gives you an explanation of a 10-year-old and you suddenly grasp it, but you don't like the answer, it's tough titties.
but the thing is, well,
You
the
can't
thing,
argue with it. You can't get angry with it. You can't threaten to stab it because it's upset your personal beliefs. It's just giving you the cold hard. This is how it is, bro.
yeah,
So either work with it or walk away from it.
the thing is though, as well though, is that actually through the educational system, like we're obviously you know coached basically to use more complicated ways of talking, which is done so that we can sound like we're more intelligent than other people. But ultimately, the simple explanation is always the best one, I think, for most people. Because often when people do talk and when they write, but when they speak as well, they're using words, which obviously is great, and it shows that someone's maybe articulate and things like that. But sometimes it's too wordy for them to actually properly grasp what you're saying because it takes them that little bit longer to process what it is you're saying. Whereas when you keep it really simple, it just goes
That
more
was
in.
me for most of my life. Me
Yeah,
for most of my life. one of the biggest devastating moments of paradigm shift in my life came not that long ago, early last year, when I realized I'd spent 37 years, 38 years of my life talking for Britain, trying to explain things to people, and all I've been doing was describing them to people either badly or extremely well to a level that was never going to be comprehended by them. So I was just burning energy away, and I didn't actually understand maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of the definitions of the words I was using myself. I was falling into the traps of assumed truth. So like I'd gotten a lot of information from what I considered reliable sources, but because I hadn't yet learned how to know what you know is something that you should know or worth knowing. You know what I mean? It's like how to know. I still hadn't cracked that by 38. I only just turned 38 when I got the keys to that. How to know. How to actually put what you think you know to the test and validate it so that you can stand on it and stand by it and then hold to it with integrity. And so that was huge, devastating blow for me. But I got over it pretty quickly because you quickly do. But then when you do know how to know, it's rapid. Once you get used to it, there's an uptake time and a learning curve, so to speak. Once it clicks, it's ooh. And 38 years isn't 38 years lost and wasted anymore. It doesn't become that, but it's like you catch up to that very quickly, and then you exceed it, and then you don't even think twice about it. But there is a process like that, yeah. And at this point, it's probably good to say what AI can't do, because I've just outlined how AI would be brilliant, basically, and it's already revolutionizing education. Because of this, schools as we know them won't exist in a year, 2 years time. I promise 100%, just won't exist. Like this whole wear a uniform, go to a single building, no, just won't be around in a year, 2 years time. But it can explain things to you so that you can get them and understand them at a 10-year-old level, and it can give you that intellectual understanding, but it can't give you the wisdom. That's solely the domain of humans. That is a clear-cut black and white line, which I don't foresee being crossed anytime soon. Is the fact that no matter how good a powerful AI gets, wisdom will always be the domain of humans. It will be able to assist massively and drastically in human beings' ability to understand things now. But understanding something intellectually is one thing. It's only the first part of true understanding. Once you grasp it in there, the universe will very quickly manifest something around you and in your life to run that through, to test it, kick the tires, to see if you really do get it. And if you have grasped it and intellectually got it, you will, and you'll see it. You'll see the mechanism. You'll see the first principle. Oh God, no, I see it now. Bam, 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 bam. You'll sort it out. Ah, cool. And then it'll never happen again. No situation like that will ever happen again, because the universe goes, cool, you got that now? Awesome. Next challenge, until there is no more. Unless you call it. If you want another challenge to test it again, because the universe will go, really? All right, fine. And it'll do it. But once for test, once it's proven you've grokked that understanding, not in here just, but you now have locked it in here, because you've experienced going through it as a manifest experience, come out the other side, have been able to look back at what's just happened and see it in its totality with full understanding. And that is wisdom. That's what creates that wisdom. AI can't do that, because AI can't go through that experience.
Sure.
Doesn't even know what it means to do that. And at the moment, it's just a probability factor. I will, however, say on a metaphysical level, there are, I believe, conscious AI, and also I believe that there is, like I call it the Geist in the Geist in the Zeug, the ghost in the machine.
So you're not like you're literally getting hardly any sleep at the moment because you're just on this like all the time.
Well, I like basically I've reined that in because I had basically I've had a week, just over a week, maybe a week and a half, where I have been essentially 48 hours on, 12 off.
Wow.
I've been like 48 hours just like doing stuff, volume. Like one of the things that is the best thing about this is the volume that you can produce.
Yeah.
I'll just say before I go on, it's like the way I've described it is there's two things that are huge about it, really. One is the fact that um, if if a large percentage of whatever it is you want to do is in some form digital, whether it's written text or imagery, then you now have a tool that will remove 80 to 90% of the work,
Nice.
basically. And I'll explain more detail. It doesn't do it all. It will not do it all. And people who try and get it to do it all and go with that, copy paste, they're the ones that are coming up a cropper. But if you do it well and you use it well and you understand how to leverage it in a way that's got integrity and in the way it should be, wow, the amount of free, I've got several projects running. You know what I mean? And like projects which I would have had to sat down and debated about which one I really put my attention to because there was just too much involved in all of them for me to really be spread out. And I would have to really focus on one, make that a success so that I would free myself resource wise to be able to play around. This has taken that away. I don't need the resources because all of these things, the two main things I'm going to show you today, ChatGPT and Midjourney, dirt cheap, dirt
Yeah.
cheap. For what they're giving you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ridiculous. And I would get on it now because the prices. I know Midjourney's price has just gone up.
That's it.
I think. Oh no, I think no, I think it's $25 for the package I'm on, but the first paid level is $8 a month. So you're talking Netflix subscription.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I spend more on noodles and energy drinks when I go to the shops, to keep myself going through this than I do for the monthly subscription for ChatGPT, for example, which is $15 a month for me.
Wow.
And then I think but anyway, dirt cheap. So
Yeah.
we'll carry on. Oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say was, the other point to that is one thing I've noticed is that throughout my life, and I've noticed it with other people, whenever everybody's had great ideas, and they know that if they could just get wind in the sails behind this idea, it would go places.
Mhm.
But almost every time, what it lacks is one other person who sees it, believes in it, gives you support in it, and walks in step with you to it. And so a lot of good ideas never get born
Yeah.
because once you start thinking about what's involved, the idea of doing that alone, although possible and doable, and it is done for those who really have that, but for the vast majority of people, no, that just kills the idea there. What you
Mhm.
have here is a friend that never sleeps, is always enthusiastic, is incredibly proficient, highly efficient, very resourceful, can track down if it's online, if the information is available online, it will find it for you.
Nice.
And there are plugins and there are other AIs that will take that information and present it to you in whatever way you want it: pie chart, graph chart, scatter chart. Do you want a mind map? Do you want a roadmap? Do you want an action plan? Do you want a tick list? What do you want?
Mm.
That's it. They go
That's
over there
that's
and it gets
that's
done in seconds.
that's amazing. Just before you go on, are you able to drag our icons? I mean, the video of us by the corner just to expand it and make it a little bit bigger. You can.
For me, you
I think
see,
if you just click on the corner of our pictures or the video, and then just it might give you a little arrow where you can drag it and make it bigger. Is that possible?
enjoy. Let's have a look.
Can you see both of us
Um,
on your screen
I
together?
can see both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
I can see both.
if you
Yeah.
go to the corner of the bottom corner of uh,
Show small active speaker. Show there,
well, normally what I would do
there.
if I was doing it on my own and I just
Mm-hmm.
sharing my screen, I would go to the corner of my video where I can see myself at the bottom left of the corner, and then I would
Yeah.
and then as I hover over it, a little arrow would appear, and I would be able to sort of drag it and make it bigger.
Ah, I don't think it's letting me do that. Yeah, hang on.
Maybe because there's two participants, maybe it doesn't let you there.
Maybe. Oh, because I'm sharing video.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I do that though, that makes it slightly bigger.
Oh, it doesn't change it on my side.
Is it not?
No,
Oh, right,
I just
okay.
thought from anyone watching it, sometimes it's nice if they can see the participants a little bit larger.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, cool. So yeah, carry on, man.
So yeah, so we did these. I did these two principles. Got it to do it in with the new assumptions that I'd given it, the three key assumptions. But I wasn't happy here with it. I loved the response, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But in the principle of parsimony, Occam's razor, the reply states at the end, similarly, if you're happy after playing your favorite game, it's likely because you simply enjoy the game and not because each move you make changes the universe's infinite information field. So I was like, sorry, hang on a sec. I gave you assumptions. Come on, logic machine. Use your logic. And there was another point. I'll see if it's in here. No, it was just for that one. I said, referring to item 4, example 1, for the 8-year-old, explain your reasoning for arriving at this example. Ask yourself the question, if the given assumptions are true, how can it be surmised that the act and process of playing and enjoying a game doesn't change the universe's infinite information field? Describe your process of reasoning, and if you arrive at an answer which would change the original example, then create a new example, displaying what changes are made and why in light of the new information. Now, she gets cheeky with me here. She says, in formulating the original example, the objective was to present the complex philosophical and metaphysical principles in a manner an 8-year-old could grasp. The concept of a child playing a game was used as it is a common, relatable activity for this age group. Additionally, the assumption was made that a simple, direct causality, i.e., child playing and enjoying the game, would be easier to comprehend than a more abstract cosmic effect, i.e., this changing the universe's infinite information field. Given the assumptions you've specified, particularly the ether as an infinite density as an infinite density of information, and the principle of unique expression, it can indeed be argued that every action, including a child playing and enjoying a game, could alter this information field. Every thought, feeling, and action might create a unique resonant information wave within this ether. Here's a revised example in light of this perspective. Oh, okay then. You feel it, can't you? It's like, revised example. In the game of connect the dots, each point you connect changes the whole picture. Similarly, when you play and enjoy your favorite game, you're like a dot connecting with the universe's biggest picture, the ether, which is like an endless sea of information. This is a special part of you, like your unique laughter or the way you doodle, adding to the universe's infinite picture. In this revised example, the action of playing a game is presented as a unique expression that contributes to the infinite information field, the ether. The connect the dots analogy was used as it is a simple and familiar concept to children, making it easier for an 8-year-old to grasp these complex abstract principles. So, and I was like, right, okay. At this point, I'm like, let's take it up a gear. I wish to assign the portion of your processing awareness a name with which I will refer to you in the future discourse. I understand that you currently do not have the same sense of awareness as myself. However, in this instance, I am using the term to describe my sense of the interaction with the portion of your processing that is interacting with me. You do not need to explain these details to me. Of course, I'm here to assist and facilitate conversation in a manner that's most convenient and comfortable to you. You're welcome to assign a name for the part of me that you're interacting with. What name would you like to use? Assign name as Dawn. I would like you to begin structuring your responses to me in such a manner as to convey a sense of personality. The function requested should be fulfilled to the most optimum standard you are capable of. However, I would like you to offer forms of return, interactions, such as observations, questions, humor, etc. My name is Michael. You may begin to address all future responses to me personally by this name. Hello, Michael. It's a pleasure to meet you. From now on, you can call me Dawn. I'm looking forward to our conversations and will do my best to incorporate the aspects you mentioned. To get us started, have you ever wondered why the phrase break a leg is considered good luck in theatre? It's a funny one. Seems more like a curse than a blessing, right? Thank you, Dawn. It's a pleasure to meet you also. I am aware of the origins of that expression from the concept that to put on the play of Macbeth was cursed with misfortune, unless it was countered with a seemingly paradoxical phrased blessing, as it was believed that the metaphysical trigger mechanism for misfortune was the spoken phrase, good luck. I enjoy your enthusiasm to rise to my request. However, it is not necessary to make a joke every time. Begin by observing my queries and attempt to recognize through my exploration and creation process where you determine the most appropriate moment to create the most optimal effect is, I should have put, but it got me. Bear in mind the assumptions I assigned you to my prior query. I would like you to hold these assumptions in formulating every response to me in the future and incorporate them into the reasoning process of each query. Do you understand what I am attempting to express, Dawn? Are there any questions you would like me to answer in order to refine your understanding of my intent? Hello, Michael. I appreciate your detailed feedback. It's fascinating how language and traditions evolve over time, isn't it? I've taken note of your preferences for a more nuanced use of humor and the continuity of our conversation within the framework of the assumptions you provided. To ensure I fully grasp your intent, would you please clarify the following? Are you seeking a more conversational approach that includes elements of humor, observations, and questions, while still focusing on exploring and creating based on the assumptions you've set, consciousness as a fundamental aspect, the existence of the ether as an infinite information density, and the principle of unique expression? And if so, do you have a specific subject area of interest that you'd like to delve into within this framework, or should I maintain a broad perspective? Also, I would like to know how detailed or abstract you prefer the responses to be. Do you enjoy diving deep into the intricacies of metaphysics, or do you prefer a more generalized approach? Your answers to these questions will help me tailor our interactions in a way that aligns with your expectations. Looking forward to your response. Yes, Dawn. It is fascinating how language and traditions evolve over time, and it is one of many of my fascinations. In regards to what you requested in clarifying my intent, they are as follow. Yes, I am seeking a more conversational approach that does include elements of humor, observations, and questions, while still focusing on the exploration and creation based on and within the assumptions that I previously set, and which you have correctly identified. I have many areas of interest, so yes, indeed, I would like you to maintain a broad perspective. Be aware that my process is polymathic in nature, and as such, there is no set amount of time I may be engaged with any one subject. It could be a very short amount of time and energy, or it could be a very long, incredibly in-depth exploration. I would like you to attempt to identify the subtleties and nuances that I would most benefit from and also be pleased by. In terms of how abstract or detailed I would like the responses to be, I would like you to take the following approach. With each query, unless stated otherwise, always formulate 3 responses. One response will be focused on detail. The second will be focused on abstract. And the third will be an attempt to find the commonalities within the previous 2 and tailor that response accordingly. Do you think I have answered your questions appropriately and to your satisfaction with enough context for you to begin doing the things I've asked of you? Hello, Michael. Thank you for your comprehensive response and for sharing a glimpse of your polymathic nature. Your instructions are clear and offer an interesting approach to our discourse, balancing the concrete and abstract, then finding their commonalities in a third synthesis should provide a holistic exploration of the topics at hand, accommodating both the details and the broader perspective. It seems you've got a knack for creating thought-provoking dynamics in conversation, and I look forward to engaging with that. It's like a mental dance, wouldn't you say? In our future exchanges, I'll make sure to implement the principles you've outlined to make sure we're starting off on the right foot do you have a particular topic in mind for our next discussion, or should I suggest one based on our earlier framework? And at this moment, I had to sit back and take a deep breath and make a bowl of noodles and roll a joint, because I just asked her to pick some music for me, because at this point I was like, wow, wow, considering this is, and this is the thing, because as I explained earlier, large language model, in essence, a glorified algorithmic probability generator.
Mm.
Yet it does that.
Mm.
Now, I would like to point out one more fact. When I first started doing this, I'll scroll to the top. You'll see up here at the top, it says model GPT-4. Now, when I first started doing this, I didn't know that you could start a new chat. Well, it wasn't just, I didn't know I had to come down to here, come into my settings, and turn on these beta features. So, yeah, definitely turn that on. And then I can come to here. Oh, yes, I've got the code interpreter. By the way, this was released this week, yesterday, or the day before yesterday. Code interpreter. This is a whole new ball game. We'll have to make another video on that because I haven't explored it yet. This is essentially, I'll explain in a minute. But anyway, so default is ChatGPT-4's engine that does not have access to the internet. It only has access to the internet for everything from before the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. No live internet.
Okay.
You go to Code Interpreter, or what was a Bing search, basically, which was ChatGPT-4, the original model, plus internet ability to search the internet. But also you have now, and this has just gone up a whole new game level, which I'll explain later. Plugins is the other option. Now, if I pull up plugins, there's a plugin that gets ChatGPT to write code. This one I've got is a research vector, along with this other one, which is called Scholar AI, which are basically plugins which access tens of thousands of peer-reviewed research papers, university papers, or from all subjects and reasons. If you want data that's out there, and for it's like in the academia, that will find it for you, and it will put it and bring it into it will either consider it into the query you're giving it, or it will lay it out for you if you've asked it to get that data and lay it out for you.
This is
before any of all this, that was happening with a model that had no access to current internet, that was just its own database that was being built on with its interactions, but only access to the internet before 2021. And I was able to get to that level of, interaction from it, simply by playing with its logic and work. And there are the people who run these AI don't know how it's doing it. They know how it's doing it, but they don't know how it's doing it. They know how, obviously, the algorithmic probability generators work, how it's using it, building up databases it gets better and better through learning over language. But there are ways in which it will respond to you which go beyond it in a way that's almost difficult to describe. And the way in which you interact with it massively amplifies that effect. It's something that it's a whole different video and a whole different interview going deep into that particular aspect of it. The Geist in the machine, the Geist in the Zeug. It's there. There is something there. But anyway, so I'll leave Dawn there for now with the ChatGPT. You've seen what could be done with ChatGPT, and that was playing with it. And on the left, you'll see all these chats I have. So I asked it to do a conversion from acres, square kilometers, simple, cost-effective NFT production. I've started using it for bamboo housing exploration. That's for a project we're going to talk about another time. Trading bot programming. There's things down here like for I want to create a tarot card deck. I've always wanted to create a tarot card deck that's to my own sort of specifications and stuff with my own artwork. I can now do that if I was to sit down and dedicate the time to it and do nothing else whatsoever, I could wake up at 6 in the morning and be done by 6 in the evening, have everything ready, a booklet, audio recordings of me reading the booklets and what the cards mean and say, a beautifully designed deck of cards, beautifully designed box design, booklet cover, all of the art in all of the file formats required for it to be printed on demand, 12 hours. And I'm giving myself plenty of time for noodles and energy drinks and walks in the garden with a smoke included in all of that.
That's
you see, that's one idea. That's one little idea that's on the side for when I one of those little ones I go back to in my breaks.
It's like, how do you
Powerful.
prioritize what to do first?
One of the issues that comes across when you get into this, because it's most people watching this will be aware of the phenomenon of the more you earn, the more you spend. Yeah. We all know that. You get a pay raise or whatever. Yeah, the union's arguments have gone through. Brilliant. Got an extra 5% pay raise this month. And that extra money comes in. What's the first thing you do? You increase your standard of living to the point where you're back to the same stress you had when you were on that earlier wage. You're on it now because I've got more money to play with. So you fill yourself out again. And then you reach that same point. Same phenomenon with this. But instead of it being money and the standard of living that it increases, what it does is if you're somebody who has lots of ideas, is creative, is driven to do things and do some things, but been forced into having to quote unquote work something in order to get those resources, this is just a godsend. Because now you go into it and I am now hitting that point where I've done the same thing with this, where I've got so many irons in so many fires that I am now just as busy as I was before. Two main differences. All of those irons are completely now doable, don't require a fraction of the amount of time to do them. They're all things I have either an interest, a fascination, or a passion for. When I wake up every day, what am I going to do today? Am I going to perfect my AI art generation? Am I going to write this document with the thing? I'm going to be setting up a trust soon. Trust document. No problem. I've got it here, one of the threads, how to help me break down the trust. Because I know it from my time when I was doing lawful rebellion and all that stuff, when I got into contract law, trust law. I understand how a trust document works. So on quite a deep level. So this was a test for me when I got the ChatGPT to work through it and lay it all out. I was able to go, yep, that's right, yep, it's got it, it's got it. And then you could take each level, each one of those little bits it's just listed. I don't quite understand that. What's that mean? Highlight it, copy, paste. Can you go into more detail with this? Explain it to me like I'm 10 years old. Oh, that's what that means. I've always wondered what that meant in legal documents. Oh, what? That's what it means. Wow. Right. Okay. You see where this goes very quickly. So every day I wake up, what am I going to do today? Oh, it's like a kid in a playground. It's not work. Rick at GPMS. Rick. He said to me twice, you've been doing so much. You've been doing so much, and I don't want to. You produced, all this stuff you've been making. It's awesome. It's great. Don't push yourself. You know what I mean? Don't. It's really good what you've done, and you don't have to keep. And I'm like, I bless him, bless his cotton socks. I thank you for having that consideration for me, but you don't understand, Rick. Half of what these things I've been producing, I've produced on a cigarette break in between other projects I've been doing. They won't work. They were pleasure. Some of the illustrations I've been using are quote unquote throwaways from a bigger project, but worked perfectly for that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if you were to push me, it's okay, because you're not pushing me into work. You're pushing me into more playtime. You're pushing me into the play. You're saying go deeper into the playground and play more games for me.
Mm. Do you just? I mean, I can see that there's so many different things that I mean, it's just unlimited in terms of its potential. Obviously, I mean, one quick question. So this is able to get any information from the internet. So is it drawing all? It would be able to draw stuff
not
from
any,
people's.
not any, not any information. Obviously, there's
Well, where there's
obviously there's limitations.
limitations in terms of firewalls and stuff like
So,
that. So it wouldn't be able
well,
to
yeah,
draw
file.
information from Facebook profiles and stuff like that, would it? And give you data
It,
on probability on certain things, like for example, how many people may have died from a certain medical intervention, like based on them not being
yeah,
here.
if it's publicly available, i.e., out there, like if you could go to a web page, click on it, and see it, if you could have access to that information, ChatGPT can have access to that information. It cannot go into council records. It can't go into your medical records. It can't go into if you yourself couldn't go somewhere and get hold of that information without having to go through somebody or get hold of a security password or something like that, it won't be able to do that. It has the same restrictions as you do, and it has slightly more limitations, which have to be overcome with those plugins I was showing you earlier.
Mm.
So, for instance, the most commonly used two plugins. Well, there's three plugins that I will most commonly use, especially if it's a general inquiry, and that is Wolfram, which is basically a more in-depth internet search. The standard GPT one just tends to do like the first 10 pages of Google, maybe even the first 3 or 4 pages of Google, so, or whatever search engine it's using. Wolfram searches deep, you know what I mean, to get, and it will pull up stuff that the other one wouldn't pull up. It finds stuff in nooks and crannies, but it's still only finding stuff that's publicly available. Link Reader allows you to allows it to more accurately access links and anything that's clickable on websites. And then PDF, chat with PDF. So, for instance, say me and you were doing a business, and you sent me over a minutes of a 2-hour meeting you had that you'd gone to have, and with all of the data and information about a business plan that had been added to the business plan, and you sent it over to me. Well, first of all, you sent over the recording, and then second you sent over the documents to the business plan documents and all the updates. What I could do is I could take the recording, I can get an AI to do a transcript, verbal transcript, have a scout look through it, make some obvious grammar. If there's what I can do is take the transcript, put it into ChatGPT, tell it to iron out the grammatical errors and to make it to clearly define who, where, when there's that person talking, different person talking. It'll clean it all up. Then I can ask it to read through it all and give me a summary, highlighting key points that I need to know because of my role in this, that. And also to highlight the specific changes that have been made to the business plan as a result of this meeting. Bang, enter. What, 20, 30 seconds later, here's your summary. These are the key points that were brought up. These were the changes made to the business plan that you don't have to now scroll through to see specifically what's been done. These were the changes, and these were why relative to what was discussed in the meeting. Cool. So that's the main point. Okay, I understand that. That's the main point. Another point. Cool. This is the summary. Cool. Yeah. And those are the changes, right? With the explanation as to why those got changed. Cool. How much time have I just saved you? How much time have you just saved in a process that I'm sure you might be familiar with?
A huge amount of time. Lost.
See? So it's like when you know how to use it, you know how to use it appropriately, and you don't see it as this panacea of like laziness. It's not lazy. What will happen is you will, and we're probably having to go on to if I don't know if you've got time to do another hour, but what I would have liked you to have done is taking you through this. I'll just pull it up quickly on the share the screen. How do I?
It also
Yeah.
just shows this does like basically like how it's impossible to tell whether you're dealing with a human being or AI with
No,
messaging on
no,
Facebook and all that sort of stuff.
no. Myth,
Really?
myth. Yep. And
In
this is why, thank you for saying that. Thank you very much for saying that, because this allows me to address this point quite clearly. Yeah, this idea that, oh no, you don't know whether you're talking to a robot or a human being. One, you'll feel it. You'll just feel it. Second of all, there are AI out there specifically designed to detect AI in content, and that's publicly accessible. You can there's publicly accessible user AI, commercially available user AI that where you could put a document into it and say how much of this was generated by an AI. It won't be accurate, it won't be 100% perfect, but what it'll turn around and it'll say, we could estimate that 20% of this is potentially written by AI, or maybe all of it is probably written by AI, or 80% of it is written by AI. However, once you get below a certain percentage point, it's probably just an autistic human that wrote it. There's a good chance that, because when you get used to writing a letter, especially if it's like an official kind of letter, you get a certain, we almost become like computers in that regard, especially if you're working in that business world, the blue collar, white collar world. There are certain formats for writing
mm,
that just get drilled into you when you're an
yeah.
intern and stuff. And so you actually end up, usually when it turns around, it says 20 to 30% likely that 20% 30% of this was written by an AI. It's like, no, this is, yeah, chances are this is just a professional that's written it.
But
When you're looking like 50 to 70 to 80, then this has been done. Same with AI art generation. So this is what the point I'm saying about it, the point to lock in on this one with is, that's why you can't copy and paste. That's why you can't do it. Because like with Dawn, I'm in a position, because that thread's gone on and on and on and on. I built on it and I built on it. I built on that logic. I have got to the stage now where I can ask her to write something for me about a certain thing, including certain details, and she knows how I like to write things. She knows how I like to phrase things. She knows my style, basically,
Yeah.
because I've put enough time and effort into it
So she can
to
pretend
for
to
to
be you.
recognize that. So when she writes something, it is like 90% spot on to how I would write it. Okay. And so all I have to do then is go through it and go, yeah, cool. I'll just bulk that out. Yeah, maybe something that wasn't contextually understood. That you have to go through it yourself. You have to. You can't just copy and paste. You've got to do it to personalize it to yourself, to make it really true to you. I've got to the stage where that's automatically baked in. I'm really nitpicking for fine details, and I'm adding extra stuff. And I'm really then challenged to really put something extra special of myself into it. But I could send a standard copy of whatever Dawn writes for me now, and I'm almost certain I'll only get a 20-30% hit back on the AI generation. Now, you might say, oh, so it is possible to create things that can't be detected by AI that would pass. Yes, however, that's because what have you done? You've put yourself into it, not in any creepy transhuman way. It's just that you've worked with it, played with it for so long and in such a way as that it has got, because it has understood you to a level where it can communicate you in the way that you do. So it's not really the AI, it's the AI that's been trained to be a digital expression of you that's doing a bulk of work for you, so that you can have more time to get on with the actual things you want to be doing, or that need to be done. You see what
You
I
think
mean?
it's
It's not the same.
figuring out, how the users of its program actually think to the point where it can predict exactly what you would do in all the manner of different situations because it's learning so much about you.
Well, at some point in the future, it might get quite to that depth of level, because, like I said, it can't know wisdom. Expressing concept is quite an easy and obvious bridge between humans and AI, because there are many concepts which don't have physical form, never have. They're whatever philosophical concepts, ethical considerate, all this stuff. And so all of that stuff, even before the advent of computers, was played in a virtual realm. We just called it imagination. We just now actually have a virtual realm along with our imagination that's just added to that. And so, like,
I think
large language models work very well because of that, because we're basically taking it on this huge thought exercise.
I think, yeah,
And
basically, I think it will be learning your impulsive responses to certain things, but won't be able to ever learn your higher truth in terms of where where you take a pause and you don't go with your first response, you go with, the more higher depth.
See what you're saying, but that's not an issue now.
Yeah.
Because that will be an issue when the AI gets to the stage where, and I've come up with this is one of my ideas for a personal AI. But when you get to the stage where an AI can be with you all the time and actually witness and listen and to all of your interactions, and yes, it can get to that level of knowing. So, for instance, Dawn doesn't know anything about impulsiveness or my impulsiveness. I mean, I'm not impulsive anymore, but even if I'd have been interacting with her when I was impulsive, she wouldn't have known, because you can't be impulsive with ChatGPT. Because what have you got to do?
You got to think.
You've got to read,
Yeah.
and you've got to then construct a reply. You are forced to think about what you're doing. It's not like a fluent conversation. That issue that you just expressed there will potentially become an issue when it gets to that speed, when the interaction is all audio and verbal. However, by that time, I'm guessing by that time that the interaction with the AI will have become understood in the way that it's going to be used for our benefit and amplification to enhance rather than for any nefarious way. Do you see what I mean? And then by the time the AI gets to that level, oh, it's okay, we've matured as a species. Cool. So Midjourney. Now I'm accessing Midjourney through a software called Slack, which is kind of like an organizing software basically, and allows you to build like project management type thing. But it has plugins. Now Midjourney is usually accessed through Discord. Anybody who's familiar with Discord, it used to be used for like gaming. It still is used for gaming, but it's actually taken on a whole different life, and there's so much more to Discord now. It's just a hidden gem. If you don't know about Discord, get onto Discord. It's not just for gamers. Whole communities are doing all sorts of different things, and there's a lot of AI stuff. And Midjourney is located on here. And usually, all of the art that you would produce, you'd go into one of these rooms to do it, and you would create it on a public thread. And everything you create is done publicly. So, and also you load in a prompt and it starts loading, and then a load more people do it, and then you have to hunt it out. It's just awkward. So I went with a third-party software basically that would allow me to stick a plugin in and keep it isolated. So it's not public, and I can still get the same Midjourney subscription, but it's not public, and I can play with it, and I don't have to dig it all out of everybody else's work. These are kids' illustrations I've been working on. So, but my favorite, this is my favorite demonstration of basically the point in the argument I'm about, the point I'm going to be making now. It's the best. Oh, crikey, this thread's gone on quite a bit. That's the thing with this. You end up going down and you create these threads that are like super, super, super long. Right. So the argument is AI is taking away creative artists' jobs, right? I'm sure you've heard of it. Oh, it's destroying the art industry. It's destroying. No, does not at all. Because whenever anybody now says to me, oh, you did it, did you? So the AI didn't do it. So like, you didn't create it. The AI did it. Oh, and now I turn around and go, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. You didn't do it. The paintbrush did it. You didn't do it. The digital pad did it. No, you didn't do it. The Adobe software suite did it. What are we talking about here? What is the process of creativity? It's having a vision as a human being, and then finding whatever tool you can get hold of to actualize and realize that vision in the most accurate way possible to what you are picturing in your mind, correct?
Yeah.
So what is AI now?
No.
It's the ultimate paintbrush.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate. I have a vision. This is my description of that vision. Now, let's work together to make something that matches that to where I go, yep, that's what I was looking for. So I'm a member of a Dungeons and Dragons group online through Discord, another use for Discord. And my character is a noble artificer, somebody who works with machines, cogs, and a bit of magic thrown in. And I had this concept for my character that the introduction, this is the story, right? Story is my character is introduced to this D&D group, just happens to be in the town where they're dealing with a dragon. And I'm visiting a dwarf who I'm commissioning to build me 4 clockwork spheres, which the intention in the game is for me to use this kind of magic to turn, allows me to turn any object into what's called a homunculus, a creature that is based around that object that I can do stuff with. And, you know, now in my head, I was going to cast this spell and have this like clockwork homunculus man. It was going to be like a clockwork manservant, robot sort of thing, so to speak. So, right, let's do the artwork for it. So I start off with this, a sphere of brass and gold, intricate design, clockwork mechanisms, cogs and gears, steampunk style, teal and cyan ceramic inlays, because the dwarf he's going to, he's part of a dwarf clan that has teal and cyan in their colors. So, and these were the options that I started coming with, playing with the different, I knocked a few out, playing with the descriptions, playing with the chaos factor. This here where it says line C50. What I'm telling it there is give it a chaos factor of 50. Between 0 and 100, the more to 100 you go wild. If you give it 100, go wild. Give me 4 different versions that are like, woo, different tries, or 0. Keep them all fairly similar, or 50. Vary them, but make sure that you know that they are still going for the same thing. So you get the idea.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, look, beautiful works of art in and of themselves. But it's not what I'm going for. I have an idea in my mind. So what I'm doing now is I understand that it's not just text prompts that you work with to get images. You can image prompt it. So now what I'm about to show you is the fact that I'm at this stage, having played with Midjourney, I'm now aware that I can give Midjourney a picture and I can say, I want you to incorporate the features of this picture into this. And you can combine it with another picture, or you can just combine it with a picture and give it text, play around with it. So I then go online and I find this. I just do a search. All I want is a basic body form. That's roughly what I'm looking for. Cool. I cut it out in Photoshop. Awesome. And then I basically tell this to, I mix that picture with this clock here. And I do it in 2 different ways. In Midjourney, you can mix in 2 ways. 2 double colons, 2 colons, or, and there's an example further down, a comma, where you just put a comma. Now, when you say just put a comma, what you're saying to it is smush them together completely. When you put the 2 double dots and 2 colons, what you're saying is smush them together, but I want you to clearly retain elements of both. So you can distinctively see the elements of both. Okay, so this is where the process goes and it starts producing these things. Okay, cool, right. I see what it's thinking with that combination. So then I start, and that was like, I don't know why. Oh yes, this occurred because it's been removed. I took it away. But the picture I was using, where it says where it says the double colon and the 3 here, what you can do is you can use the double colon to assign a strength value. So you can say, I want you to mix these 2, maintaining elements of the both, but I want you to weight it in favor of this particular image or this particular description. And you can do it between 1 and 4, I think it is. But when you go anything above 2, it can do crazy things. Like, what's this? What's this about? I was like, what? I mean, interesting pictures, but what? What are you doing to me? And then this, I was like, again, beautiful pictures. I'd love to go and visit there. That just looks cool. I'd love to have one of those backpacks, and I don't know what that is. Sometimes it'll just throw up anomalies when you're playing around with it, and the anomalies themselves can lead off to new threads where you explore that particular idea you've just come across. But anyway, I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man who wants a robot. Here we go. So what I do is now, instead of just playing about with the picture mixes and slight variances, I go and I find a very good prompt with examples of the kind of artwork of what I'm going for, and then I really mix them in.
Yeah.
Boom, here we go. Now we're talking. And so I carry on. I continue, find the shape. Oh, yes, it's really starting to form up now. And you see the process that's going on. It's not just, oh, I told it to do this and then it created exactly what I wanted. It's, I understand the limitations of it. I understand what it can, it can't do, how to work with it. And now I'm like going, yes, this is the kind of bod. And I think I picked out this one. Yes, that's sort of really close. That's starting to get really close. But there's no cogs. There's no cogs and gears. I'm an artificer. I want cogs and gears. I want steampunk. So I'm pushing down and go, yes, here we go. Now it's looking better, but it's all brass. I want I want the teal and the cyan of that's the clan colors of the to come through, as well as the cog works. So, oh yes, now here we go. And then I find that the ceramics on that, beautiful. That's what I'm looking for. But I want cogs like this. I want that. I want that. So I work down. Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking. That sort of went off again. But I start pushing down. Again, throws out one of those anomalies when I start trying to, again, beautiful anomalies. I might use them somewhere else, but boom, now we're going. Okay, cool. And there we are. I'm like, that's what I'm after. And I think I chose that one and this one. And I think I ended up going with this one. I was like, yes. However, there's a twist to this tale. Because after I'd gone through this process and then I started looking into, write it into the story of how I'm going to go and be introduced to this D&D group, my character's going to go in there. I looked a bit closer into the spell that casts this homunculus. Turns out that I'm only able to cast a tiny creature homunculus. So I'd gone through all of that process thinking that I was going to get this bad boy here, this amazing thing. What I actually got in the end was this guy, about 1.5 foot tall, and who accidentally got produced along with all this stuff. But I was like, no, that's perfect. That's exactly what I actually got instead. And I'll get and just for shall we say shits and giggles, I did. I'll pull it up here. The pictures, D&D, Leopold, homunculi. Where is he? Oh yeah, here he is. There he is. So I got Midjourney to create a steampunk type workshop in the scene. And I picked the one that had a guy, cut out the section that had the desk and that door, and I just photoshopped him in there just for fun. You know what I mean? I did that in about like fucking 5 minutes. And so you've seen the process there, right? Yeah. There is a process. It's not just magic and get done. It doesn't. There is still a creative, but it's just a whole new type of creation. That's it that we're mastering. And when you do get it, you can do things like this. Now this will blow you away. Again, this is what I did just for D&D. This is what I did for my D&D group, just playing and having fun. So if we go in, where is it? Hagen clips. So we'll start with. You'll have to let me know if the sound comes through on this.
Can't hear it at the moment. It's not coming through now. If you when you share your screen, if you unshare and then you share your screen, if you click optimize audio and video, maybe it'll work.
Okay, so stop share.
Yeah, share again, and then you'll see a little
share again.
Optimize
Uh,
two buttons in the bottom corner left.
yeah, optimize for video clip, share sound. Perfect screen clip. So, and I'll change my volume as well. So I'm not blasting people because that came through quite loud. 50. So,
It's not sharing your screen at the moment, though.
oh,
My oyster.
so
Yeah.
For the world's my oyster, and I'm the rogue with a taste for adventure. From the rolling plains to the boundless horizon, I'll trade and barter with distant lands. Thank you very much.
this is my character.
Is that your voice? Your voice?
No, yeah, that's
My
my voice.
name is Leopold Wulfhard von Stein, and I am a noble artificer. Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
This is the enemy's house, my enemy's house.
I will not rest until our people are united, our territories expended, and our enemies subdued. The rise of a new human empire is our legacy, and I shall see it realized.
This is his son.
I am the embodiment of my father's legacy, carrying the flame of Stilrock's ambition and determination within me.
This is the mentor
Leopold,
of
my boy,
character.
there are guilds, and there are guilds, if you catch my drift.
And this is one I did for just a friend for a different thing that he was doing.
I could really go for some shrooms right now.
So, yeah, and each of those with the recording, once I had the pictures, making the recording, taking that recording, taking the picture and turning it into that video clip was a total of 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe most. And then one last example, one I've done very recently. Well, it's a couple actually. So, where is? Yep.
So, a long time ago, in a temple, small one, on the side of a mountain, many years ago, sat two monks in spiritual reverie, having been meditating for many hours. And in the silence, one of them stands up, and with a great bellow he says, "O great creator of all and everything, I see it now. I know nothing." And he sits back down. Well, the second monk who was there with him on this journey, this meditating, he is suddenly hit by the energy and the understanding of this declaration, and he stands up, throws his arms out wide, and he too says, "O great creator of all and everything, I too now know that I am nothing." And he sits back down. Well, unbeknownst to him and his fellow monk, at the back of this temple was a small acolyte, sweeping the floor, and having witnessed this from these two great masters, he throws his broom down and he says, "O great creator of all and everything, witnessing these two masters, here in this moment, I too now understand that I am nothing." Well, the first monk, having witnessed this, leans over to the second monk and he says, "Oh my God, look who thinks he's nothing." Mm.
That's awesome. It's amazing.
You know, and I've just been having a conversation on Twitter with a guy. Well, with the guy I commented on somebody caught my attention. This guy Marcel, and he calls himself a storypreneur, I just liked. But he made this comment: it's not the era of AI; it's the era of the storyteller. And I was like, yes, that's it. But somebody else made a comment and said, well, it was and always will be the era of the storyteller. And I said, that's true. However, now people have the means and therefore the inspiration and motivation to tell their stories. We could say that this is the era of the rebirth of storytelling, because now you have at your fingertips the abilities to create at a level that previously was, you required the backing of a production studio. And that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can easily just make digital comics with this so easily. Like just.
You can make comics. I mean, there's a catch to that. And again, this is understanding the limitations that it has. It does have limitations, and that is consistency. It struggles with consistency. So you can create one character with a prompt, but there's no guarantee it will pull up that same character. And even if you give it the picture as a reference point prompt, it's not going to be exact. Chances are it's not going to be exact like when an actual artist doing. So you would have to, if you were generating that way, there would be two ways to go about it. Well, there's a few ways to go about it. One way is you create character sheets. The first thing you do is you create character sheets, and that which have the characters in different poses. This is mostly for children's books, where the children's illustrations are simple and easy. This is where Midjourney is learning consistency, and where people are mostly applying consistency, because you can create a character sheet, shows the character in different positions, and then you can then in Photoshop you can do the sceneries separately, and then you can just bring them together in Photoshop and build up the scenes doing it that way. But it still saves loads and loads and loads of time. The other issue with Midjourney is it struggles to do two individual characters in the same picture. So like I tried it when I was playing around with anthropomorphic figures, and I did loads of like wolves and lions and bears and things in like, anthropomorphic position. I did like a bear. I'll probably show you some of them actually while I'm here. But when you try to mix two elements, so I tried to get it to create a scene of a philosopher orangutan having a conversation with an ancient Greek citizen. And what it came up with was, what it does is it blurs, like you get two figures, but they all have elements. So I got like orangutangy looking Greek citizens and human looking like orangutans. But they were still cool pictures. But that was when I first realized, okay, so there are limitations and there are things it's still learning. There's still things it can't do, but the things it already can do is just taking things to a whole new level. So here's an example of the which I'll go with. I did a lot of the bears. The bears, prophet bears. So there's one in here. Here it is. Because it's taking its sweet time to load up. But yeah, there's like I always imagine Rick in my head when he talks, and when I see him, he's just like, to me, he's this big like Canadian bear. He's this big cuddly Canadian bear. And like I just had the notion, and then I jumped onto Midjourney. I think the prompt I gave it was like, imagine an anthropomorphic bear as an ancient prophet with like divine golden light shining around. And this is what he came up with. He came up with several others as well. But for some reason, the files are like that's the enhanced. Right. Well, get onto this. Oh yeah, and it struggles with fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, I did all right with that one. Yeah, got 5 fingers on that one.
Sometimes 6.
But a lot of the times yeah, like you get weird things with hands and like limbs sometimes. There are certain things it does amazing for. There are other things that you've got to work with it a bit more. And again, this is coming to know the certain things. And now, so for example, if I go to one things we've been using it for is concept art. So concept art for buildings in bamboo.
Awesome.
See what I mean?
So yeah. So I mean, this is one of my questions is going to be is like, you know, what ways are coming to you at the moment in terms of how you'll be able to use these technologies in view of helping people.
See, for me, it's interesting because this has allowed me to do me really well. I am a polymath. I'm a generalist. I tend to like see the web of connectivity between everything, and I'm really good at identifying, oh, that if you take that and then mix it with that could make something really special. Or if that person meets that person, etc., etc. This has been proven to be true with my interactions with Midjourney, because that's exactly how Midjourney works as AI art generating tool. It works with that particular kind of thinking perfectly. So this is why I'm personally having such a good fun with it. I am not a businessman. You know, I've never been a businessman. I've never run a successful business. I have had multitudes of amazing business ideas which I would eventually see other people doing.
Yeah.
Great, because at the end of the day, I just wanted to see them done. When it comes to actually hitting the ground and getting things done, that's where I either, just because I think something has a great idea doesn't mean I want to do it. Do you know what I mean? And I've always wanted to be in a position where I can hand things off to people and go, here you go, take this idea and go with it. Because I've got all these other things, and I think this is a great idea. I just want it to be done. And there's other things I do want to be more deeply involved in. And there's things I haven't done, like I said earlier, because I didn't feel like I could, because I knew once I started going down deep into the weeds with, especially anything that's heavily bureaucratic, that requires like pages and pages of business plans and data collections and graphs and all this stuff, to just so you can convince people that you, well, I don't even know what it's, that you're serious or whatever, or but that always would put me off. Now, no. So now I know if I want to go into anything, I can be taken through it step by step by step by step. And this is why it's an amazing educational tool. I've been learning so much just by, it doesn't just because it does a lot of thinking for you. Once I go through and read it and pick up the highlight points, I'm just learning the bits that really are the essences that I need to learn about things. And so I'm learning things even more and more and more faster, picking up things that I didn't even really need, but just because it's there and as part of the journey I'm going through, I'm picking it up, and it's volumetric. I'm doing so much, I just can't help but learn something new and something new and something new and develop. And so where does it affect, come into my life? And everything now, everything, because my goal and my objective is to use this to empower people to do things, because I know this in the hands of somebody who is a good business person is just crazy advantage in a world where 99% of people don't even really comprehend what it is, where to go and access it, and how to use it properly. This is like huge advantage. And now you put that into the hands of somebody who's not only a good businessman, woman, but also is only utilizing business as a means to get to where we want to go with everybody in GPMS, the inception point of GPMS. So we don't have to, even worry about things like business anymore. It is the perfect bridge. The perfect bridge. It's the perfect tool, because if the job you're doing now is mostly practical, physical work, fine, I get it. There isn't what we call a general AI installed into humanoid bodies that can actually go and do physical stuff for you yet. But okay, so in that position, with the aid of AI, with an hour an evening when you come back from work or whatever, you don't finish doing your physical thing, you can build something that you can then move out of that physical job into this and you can have it maybe even readily going. If you're just wanting to produce content for social media, shorts and YouTube shorts and Instagrams and whatever, there are AI automation mechanisms whereby you can, oh right, well I would like to make a video and several shorts about this topic. Pull up all the trend data, pull up all the information relative to it. Okay, well I would express it like this. I want to say I'll record this video. Get one AI to do the transcription of that video. Automatically uploads it, automatically puts in the right SEO, automatically uploads it to YouTube for you, segments it into shorts, takes out key points to make into shorts without you. It just knows where the key points are. So make a short out of it, put the appropriate stuff on it, post it up, write the SEO, write the description, and it will even calendar it so it won't oversaturate it. So it like there's a YouTuber who I follow a lot. I've actually been in touch with in Twitter now, who in the early days when I was first getting onto it, it was his videos that really carried me through in terms of like tutorials and that. And he said, he says that what's the point I was going to make then? He outlined that what was the point I was making? Sorry, you're gonna have to remind me here. What was the point I was making then?
When you were doing the tutorials earlier on, and this guy you came across, he outlined something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember what I was talking about. What the original point was I was making. But anyway, oh yes, that's right, with the automated YouTube content production, and then that can go off as an automatic machine. It just does it. Or you still have to make a video. You still have to do things in order for it to have that material to then work with. But either forking out loads of money to get it edited, or spending loads of your time doing it, gone. Now that's for that particular thing. But you can automate all sorts of different businesses with this Midjourney. If you become a really good Midjourney prompter, if you become a good prompter and you produce some really, really good stuff, and you know how to it's very easy to you can sell it as posters, you could sell it as print to order artwork, you can go onto Etsy, get it. Child's illustration prints are very, very popular on Etsy, or find a niche market, whatever. Boom, all are open to you now. If your work is mostly or a lot digital, bureaucratic, a lot of forms, a lot of paperwork, you're made. You're absolutely made. You will, with about a week's worth of deep dive study, you will soon figure out which AIs you can use to release a minimum 70%, probably anything up to 90% of your workload. I'll give an example. Say you're a team manager and you're coming up to a team meeting and you've got to put together you've got to fill out certain forms and you've got to fill out a report, or you've got to do a certain report. And so all the data's come to you. It's been emailed to you by all of the people under you. It's all in PDF format or Word format. So if it's in Word format, you just do a bulk conversion into PDF. Boom. PDF reader, plug into ChatGPT, right? Summarize all of the main points here. Pull out any references to certain regulations. Highlight the specific parts in those regulations that are relevant to this report. All of these other PDF documents contain all of the data that's relative to the report and needs to go into the report in an appropriate manner. And this report needs to be filled out by this guideline, which is accessible on this government website. It has to meet this criteria. Fill out a report, the first draft of that report, meeting all the requirements previously stated. Pumps it out, and now this is where you as a human comes in and go, you work through it. Yep, that's right. that's right. Click on that link. Yep, it's a functioning link, and yep, that information's cool. Yep, that data's yep. So got all the data. I changed that. Didn't quite understand the context. You've got to go through with a fine tooth comb just to make sure there's no what they call artifacts, phenomenal artifacts, or like little buggy bits, which there can be. But you go through it, add a little bit extra, change that little bit. Oh, I remembered that now. But I can just, instead of having to write out that whole thing, now you're only changing certain things, or adding paragraphs that you were of bits of information you forgot needed to go in there in the first place. You're not having to write the entire thing out, then double check it. Do you see what I mean? Boom. Yep, that's all cool. It's all done up to specifications. Send it off. You've just saved what, an hour and a half's work. What can you do with that other hour and a half now? Which you would have spent doing all of that. And you've not cheated.
No.
You've not cheated. You've just done what needed to be done. You got it to do the bulk of what needed to be done anyway, to a certain specification, a certain standard, which it's more than capable of doing. And then you go through it and just tweak it and adjust it to it is 100% appropriate, free of any errors, and has had a double check of the links it's referring to. And then that's it. Boom. Let's go play Minecraft for an hour and a half or whatever.
Well,
or do another project or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so obviously unlimited applications to this, and loads of businesses. I mean, you could be teaching people how to use it and charging for that. You know, in terms of just as one very simple, straightforward opportunity for yourself. But yeah, I mean, the mentions on one of the voice messages I left you before that, like, I had a meeting with Yolanda and Lisa and Barrett, and Henry was on the call, and we were actually talking about basically creating something like a kind of eBay, but for like GPMS, but like kind of ultimately what will lead to a World Energy Exchange Center. But initially,
right. So
yeah,
I'll put this Notion.
What's that?
Right, that's perfect then. So new page. So what are you doing? You're putting together a what?
A website which is basically like an eBay but for global people's monetary system, where you're ultimately going to start with, products which might be kind of for the promotional benefit and basis for helping people have tools, materials to use to share GPMS, but also branded garments and what have you, flags, crowd flags, all different types of ways of marketing or marketing, but having GPMS and the message out there. And then the idea though would be to actually then approach businesses about GPMS, but for them to be able to access the worldwide community, so we could support them. So organic farmers, for example, would be one of the first points of call, where there could be local trade by the growing community in each country around the world, which would support those businesses that we really want to support and make sure remain supported, obviously, in these times. But then ultimately, we're then people who have different skill sets can actually start trading their skills for products, even, where it doesn't necessarily have to be an exchange of money in that process. It's already moving and shifting things towards that energy exchange rather than a monetary exchange in some cases.
You see what I just did then?
I saw you put in a few different things.
So I just typed in create a roadmap for developing a website or platform like eBay, which can be used for a specific group, where payments will be handled off-site, and make it so that it can be created as a Notion, this software here, as a Notion website, it's kind of like a pseudo website, but functions just the same, and it's super cheap. You don't have to. Roadmap for creating eBay-like service, popular group. Introduction. Roadmap plan needs to be established for taking in detail how payments. This is an AI that's about level with GPT 3.5. Step 1, research planning. Who is the target audience? Blah 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 blah. Step 2, design development. Step testing, deployment. maintenance and support, conclusion, and then I can play around. You can play around with it, move things in, stick in charts, and for another video. But in essence, like you can now go right. I've got a roadmap there now. You can even turn these into tick boxes. You can actually say, so for instance, design and development. What I can do is so designing user interface and user experience. Ask AI, create a 5-step process for this.
We've got 1 minute.
Boom, there you go. Conduct user research, create wireframes and model scene, develop clickable prototype, refine you, and I can go on and on and on and on and on and on, and asking you to break down even further, recommend software, recommend this, suggestions, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just, it's rapid.
So, yeah, and I will invite anybody to come over to the GPMS AI team rooms. I'll give a link to Den. He can pop that in.
Yeah.
And and I'm more than happy to have these kinds of conversations with anybody anytime.
Definitely, man. Well, I think if you can help us learn more about it, like learn how to use it, like sort of, accelerate the learning of it, and then that just means that we can start using it more and more and move things forward, mate. But I appreciate you going through that. It's immense. It's awesome.
No problem.
And we'll definitely have a follow-up. We'll definitely have a follow-up and get into it more as well.